Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Best in Slot. I still don't have a PC, so welcome to this very professionally made, I think you'll all agree, Planet Zoo video. And what we're going to do, since I don't have a PC and all I have is a pad of paper, is we're going to plan out the zoo. So I've been thinking a little bit. We're going to make the Mega Zoo. We've talked about it in the past. There you go, Mega Zoo. And wow. Now my setup is a little bit awkward. My phone is balanced half on a box, and then I've weighed down the other half with a hammer, a chisel, and an Xbox controller. This is the least professional video I have ever made. Anyways, my PC will hopefully be here in a day or two, but until then, we may as well get started on our next Planet Zoo thing. So, the idea behind the Mega Zoo, wow, is to basically have a zoo that has every single animal in the game in the zoo. Now, I know what people are thinking, but Best in Slot, you don't want to do big zoos anymore. You're not wrong, YouTube. So the plan is the Mega Zoo will instead be lots of little zoos essentially glued together. If you imagine the aquatic park times 20, that's the general idea. So each zoo is going to be self-contained in its own thing, but instead of starting a new zoo each time, we simply carry on and put them together, basically. And that way we get a zoo with all the animals in, but I don't get bored, and they all kind of have their own little section as well. So I'm going to come up with lots of different topics, but because we never really played with the Australia pack, that is where we're going to start off. So, actually I should skip forward several pages, bear with me. Next one. Australia. There you go. I'll talk about Merino later. So I've planned out, very roughly, I've got ideas for 5 habitats, but we're going to draw the habitat ideas, and I want you guys to be able to get involved as well and like complement new ideas and stuff like that. So we're starting off with the saltwater crocodile. There's my expert drawing there, and I've written down my little base idea here for what the saltwater crocodile is going to be. Now, interestingly enough, I think it's interesting, I actually had a plan for the saltwater crocodile already. You remember in the aquatic zoo we did a little something. There's a box here. I can't move my hand to draw. We did in the aquatic zoo, we did the swamp with the swamp witch and everything, and that was a lovely idea. I wanted to do the tunnel, but I had another idea at the time that I didn't get to do. So we're going to do that idea when it comes to this saltwater crocodile, which is going to be part of our Australian section. I'm thinking 5 to 6 animals per section, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. You guys are going to guess. So from above, it would look like that. There'd be water there, you see. There you go. But from the side, that's more important. So be a line, and you'd be walking along like so, little human people. And maybe there's like a window there, like a door there with a circle in it. And in here, in these windows, in these porthole areas, there's lots of water, and there's light sort of spilling out from here and light spilling out from here, and this is actually where the crocodiles live. So the crocodile would be swimming past the window. Now this is kind of inspired by Deep Blue Sea 2 but basically it would be like an underwater lab that's flooded, you know. So 2 of my habitats for today are horror film inspired. Only 2 out of 5. I think that's pretty good, but this one is definitely horror film inspired. And the idea is you'd walk along and this path would be a little bit flooded somehow, if I can make if I can make that effect, and there'd be water dripping from the ceiling. And if you imagine Deep Blue Sea, if you imagine any film where there's a disaster in an underwater lab basically, and the whole thing's falling apart and there's water dripping everywhere, that's the idea. And this room here has been flooded, and there's like the red lights are spilling out like the alarm lights, and you can see the crocodiles swim, like these black shadow crocodiles swim past the window as you try to escape the lab, basically. I think it's a really nice idea. I keep looking at my microphone and talking into it. I need to remember my phone. See ya. So that's the idea for the saltwater crocodile. I'm going to try to keep this short and snappy. Huh? Right, let's move on. I'll do more detail later on, but that's the general idea for the saltwater crocodile. There's my koala. So the koala, I really liked the idea of doing, this isn't going to be too over the top. I've written Treetop at Ewok Village because that's the general idea, is that it's going to be a walk-through habitat, and you'd walk through, let's say let's put some cliff, oh my god, I can't get over that. Cliffs over there, and you'd walk along your bridge, and your bridge, pretend that angle-wise this makes sense. The bridge doesn't go up and down, but it does curve, it wibbles around as you go. And then the koalas would essentially live entirely on wooden platforms along the area here. And they'd have trees popping out of them to give it this kind of like treetop village kind of vibe. Maybe we'll build little huts, probably not, because I don't like buildings, but that's the general idea. You'd follow like this little wooden bridge. Maybe there's a waterfall cascading down the middle. You'd follow this wooden bridge along it. It would curve around these trees and through these trees even. Maybe we can make a tree. Maybe there's like a big rock we can walk through, something like that. I don't know yet. Maybe there's a big rock, right? And in that big rock is where we put our exhibit animal, because I haven't planned for that yet. We'll see. Anyways, you're walking along, you're going through all these treetops, and the koalas live on these wooden platforms, some of which would be connected to the path, some of them which would be entirely separate. And then between, so if you imagine, you've got a tree here, there you go, you've got a tree here, there you go, and there's a wooden platform here, and there's a wooden platform there, and our bridge is walking along sort of just about in the distance back there, right? The koalas would then have a stick connecting the two. So the idea is there's all these different platforms, but the koalas can climb about the entire thing, and there's like 30 to 40 of these wooden sticks connecting all these platforms together. So the koalas, if we load the enclosure with koalas, they should be climbing all around the place, you know? I mean, that's a nice idea. Not too much heavy on the theme in this one. I have tried to keep a balance between the themed and the unthemed, but this is the only unthemed one, so never mind. Let's take a look at the next one. And remember, all of these ideas are open to new ideas. If you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. This is my red kangaroo. And there he is, looking like Dr. Robotnik or something. And this, as you can see, says road and petrol station. So this is my only other horror film inspired one. Because I kind of had to. For me, quintessential Australian horror film is two things. One of them is quite swamp-based, like Lost in the Outback, more. But the other, it's all about these long stretches of road in the middle of nowhere. Just this dead area where, you know, you're going to get run off the road by a trucker, or you've got like a Wolf Creek situation going on. It's this long expanse where there's no one else for miles around. So I want to do something like that. And the idea is, I mean, you just imagine you walk past the enclosure, you're just going to walk along there, it doesn't really matter. I don't care about the humans, by the way. And then going down this way, there would be like a long stretch of tarmac. I will research Australian road markings. And, you know, there's the signs like warning about kangaroos and stuff like that. And then I want to build, like here, and this is the only building I'm really going to be doing, but like other than the lab, I suppose, but like a dilapidated little falling apart, covered in rusted metal, which obviously you can tell from that, but like covered in rusted metal, this dilapidated little petrol station, gas station, whatever you want to call it, kind of again like in every Australian horror film ever made. At the start of the film, before they go to get killed, they stop for petrol, they stop for gas, they stop for supplies, and the attendant at the petrol station always tells them not to go that way because they'll die or they'll get in trouble or whatever. So we're going to build that petrol station sitting off here somewhere in this like dead area. This is going to lead very well onto not the next exhibit but another one. I do have a rough idea how all these are going to come together, but the kangaroo is really just going to be there you go, there's a kangaroo. The kangaroos are just going to be bouncing around this whole area, basically. They're just going to be enjoying... There's nothing too kangaroo themed about it, but I just like the idea and I want to do it, so I'm going to do it, basically. So that's the general idea for the kangaroos, this horror themed kind of shebang. Very daytimey. I will do a lot of lighting work again because I really enjoyed that, but I mean, especially in the saltwater crocodiles. Right, next up is... I've done these in a terrible order, by the way. Next up is the cassowary. So one of my problems I had was we're going to have this big, tall koala habitat in the trees, right? And because we're trying to fit all the animals in, I'm still not convinced by the mega zoo idea, by the way. I'm still rethinking that slightly, but let's say we go for that. That means room isn't at a premium. These zoos are massive, but it would be nice to keep things tight where possible. And I thought if we have this big area where the koalas are sort of in the trees, that's going to take up a lot of room, and it'd be nice to fold another habitat into there. So, I should go back just for a sec. If you imagine this is the koala habitat, because, you know, it is. These tall trees are all here, and at the bottom of here, this is where the swamp would be. And that would actually be where the saltwater crocodile habitat is, just to the sort of the side. So they'd be very close to each other. Now, I'm about to hit 10 minutes, and I'm not sure my phone will record past 10 minutes. I'm just going to wait. Okay, right, so back to the cassowary. There it is. I love the cassowary. So my thought was, you're going to come down from the bridge there. So you've crossed over the ravine, and this is all the... I really can't draw in this situation. I can't draw anyway, but in this situation, you crossed over the bridge, and you're walking along down here, and you need to step back down into the main park itself. So imagine this is a staircase, because I want to build this into like a wooden staircase. Not a wooden staircase. Well, either a wooden staircase or like an overgrown old stone staircase. I haven't really decided on that one yet. Either way, you're going to walk back down this hill, and it's going to be very foresty, very rainforesty. I really want to get a mix between the sort of arid feeling that most people think of, especially from like sort of central, well, parts of central Australia, but also the more rainforesty environments. You know, cassowaries do live in more voluptuously green environments, and I'd like to lean into that. I'd also like to lean into the fact that cassowaries cassowaries are dinosaurs, but they look like dinosaurs. You know what I mean? They're not just dinosaurs, but they've got that kind of look to them. They've got this predatorial, raptor-esque. The claws, the feet are very raptory, and they're really cool. They're like my favourite animal in the entire pack. So the plan is actually walk down here. Now, I believe cassowaries are a walkthrough animal. They definitely shouldn't be, but I believe they are. And if they are, this will be a walkthrough as well. And as you walk down this staircase, it's probably not going to be straight, it'll kind of like curve around a little bit. But you're going to see the cassowary sort of popping out the trees at the side, and then at some point you'll be going down. How am I going to draw this? How do I draw anything? You're going down, right? Let's just say you're going down this way. And here, like say midway through, you're going to see like a little bit of a clearing. So I'm going to stagger the earth down. And in this clearing, I'm going to build a big nest, and it's going to basically be an oviraptor dinosaur nest is the idea, to kind of play a little bit with the fact that cassowaries and oviraptors certainly look somewhat similar in some ways ish. I mean, oviraptor, yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways, slash terrorbird slash anything really in that kind of area. I'm going to look for some proper compelling... This looks like a terrifying fried egg. I'm going to look for some proper compelling images on that, but that's the general idea. And you'll see all these eggs sitting in there, maybe a couple of cracked ones. When we get the babies, we'll try to contain them to this area somehow. And beyond that, I don't really have too many ideas. I'm thinking like a... Ooh, no, I just got an idea. Maybe like a fence over here, like a Jurassic Park style electric fence, and it's a little bit broken maybe in this corner. The idea being this was the holding pen for these cassowaries, but they're breeding, and a little bit Jurassic Park inspired. We haven't done anything Jurassic Park inspired so far, so cassowaries, why not? Finally then, because I don't have one for the... There's like blue-tongued lizard slash skink, whatever you want to call it. I believe in Australia they do not call it the skink though, so I'm not going to call it the skink. So I don't know where I'm going to put that. That will come later. It'll be somewhere in here. I'll just kind of get inspired as I go. But the dingo is our last creature, and I wanted to do something a bit more traditionally Australian, I guess, in a very cliche way. But Uluru. Now you may know that as Ayers Rock or Ayers Rock, but they renamed it Uluru because it does have a fairly prominent meaning to the indigenous people of the area. I do want to look into that a little bit more, see if I can tie into that a little bit. But if you've seen pictures of Australia, you've seen Uluru, which hopefully I'm pronouncing correctly. It's that big ass rock basically. It doesn't look quite that square, but that's the general idea. It's the big ass red rock that you've seen. I was reading up about it a little bit because they closed it. You used to be able to climb it. I don't know how recent it was. It wasn't that long ago, but they closed it for climbing because it is, you know, spiritual and it's important to people. So of course they don't want people clambering, tourists. I talk too fast. Tourists clambering all over it. And they announced when they were going to close it, but they didn't close it immediately. So they said like, oh, in 2 weeks we're going to close it. And immediately this horde of people started to climb it to get like one last climb in before it shut down. And I just read that and thought that was the most stupid thing I've ever read. It's like, this place is being shut because it is spiritual, because it's important to people, because it has meaning. And now you're desperately trying to get there in time so that you can take an Instagram photo. Whatever. Anyways, we're not going to include that. That's not part of it. I don't really have a great idea for the dingo yet. I would like to do something just a little bit more. A lot of this is quite building work, which isn't really my shebang. Or like, you know, using tools. I'd like to do something that's more landscape based. So I'm thinking about using Uluru. there's a pretty cool thing as well. Where did I see that? Oh yeah, I was meant to mention this here, Kings Canyon, in the area around the cassowaries and koalas. There's a place in Australia called Kings Canyon, and it's like this massive crevice of rock, like the red layered sedimentary rock you'd often see in Australia. And then in between the rock, it's like up or something, but in between the rock, you imagine this is rock here, this is like a big rock wall, that's all dry, arid land and rock at the top of the rock. At the bottom, it's all waterfalls and forest, and it's really beautiful. And I really liked that mix between the red arid rock and the very like verdant rainforest. So that's how these are all going to link together. The cassowaries and the koalas live in that verdant rainforest, and then that fades away and you still got the red rock, and then that's going to lead us into the dingoes / the kangaroo. The kangaroo will be in this sort of area as well. That's the idea. Now, how I make the dingo interesting beyond just having Uluru, which I do want to try to build, it's just going to be a big ass rock. My idea is I'm going to build a big rock, but then we're going to try to make it look sedimentary, but both by painting it with a terrain brush, but also maybe like indenting it a little bit and just seeing what we can do to give it a little bit of variation in colour as you look at it. It isn't that variant, Uluru. There's a lot of red, but I'd like to bring in a little bit of it. But I don't really know what's going to go... There's my dingo, by the way. I don't really know what's going to go in the area. Maybe it is just going to be a nice final habitat, or penultimate if it's before the kangaroo. It'll just be Uluru in a nice looking little place, and you'll just walk around and look in. Blah, 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 blah. The only other idea I've got, as you saw, was big Merino. I was looking at Australian landmarks for things to bring into this area, and I found big Merino. Now, big Merino is terrifying. I recommend you Google it. But it's basically a giant wooden... What is my fire stick doing? It's a giant wooden sheep, essentially. Because they had like in the area where it is, I can't remember, they had a prominent lumber trade, and they also had a prominent like wool trade, essentially. So they crafted this big ass sheep, and it looks terrifying and adorable and bizarre all at the same time. So the entrance to the Australia section is going to have you walk past. I'm going to try to build, I'm not really sure how at this point in time, but I'd like to try to build, unironically, it looks something like that. I'd like to try to build big Merino at some point. That's just like a light idea. Regardless of, and that'll be like the entrance for this section, regardless of whether we do the Mega Zoo idea or not. And that is generally it, folks. That is the basic idea. I really like these four. I'm still thinking about the dingo. I'm not convinced by Uluru. I really like Uluru as a landmark. It's beautiful. It's called the Heart of Australia. There's lots of lovely Australian things going on. Shut up, Fire Stick. Lots of lovely Australian things going on, but I don't know how it translates into an exhibit quite yet, so I might change this one up entirely. If any of you have any ideas about how this could come together, let me know. But if you have any alternate ideas for what would make a suitable thematic dingo habitat, then feel free to let me know as well. I'm not committed to this idea. I am committed to the others, but I'm willing to change them up a little bit, not too much. Yeah, I think that's about it, folks. So other than that, the only other thing to talk about really is, I'm just going to do like a light thing here. This is essentially the idea for the Mega Zoo. So if you've been watching the Aquatic Zoo, you'll know that, in my opinion, one of the reasons I stuck to it and I really enjoyed it was because I didn't build shops, I didn't build cafes, I didn't build restrooms, I didn't build staff areas, really. I just hid everything away. I didn't care about that stuff because I don't care about that stuff. That stuff doesn't matter to me. I don't enjoy building it. It slows me down and it gets in the way of what I think is important, and that's the animals. That's just how I prefer to build. Regardless of whether this is just an Australian zoo or indeed a Mega Zoo, which this would be like the middle, by the way. I thought I'd like have like a big globe in the middle. I wish it could spin, but like a big globe in the middle, and then the paths would shoot out to take you to all the different sections, and some of them would link to other sections, of course. Either way, whichever one we do, that will be the philosophy. We're not going to be screwing around with guest stuff. I don't care about guest stuff. It's just habitat, and nothing else. And that way, hopefully, I should stay interested, and you guys get to see me build things, which I think I'm a lot better at. I'm not great at the building buildings. I'm much better with the actual habitats. So, not to say we won't do some more building heavy stuff. I like the idea of doing like a big glass dome or something, kind of like Panagar. Remember that rainforest building we did? It'd be nice to do something like that again, but not for yet. Not for yet. That's not English. Okay, so leave your suggestions and thoughts down below. This is the best I can do in the circumstances. I'm hoping to have my PC either tomorrow, which was the scheduled delivery, or Wednesday, which is the delivery that is now listed when I try to track it. At the end of the day, the fact that I have a new PC coming is staggering. I tried to get it from so many different places, but they're all like a month away because graphics cards are completely sold out these days. You know, because everyone's home for Christmas and stuff like that. But I found someone who builds them on eBay and has like a couple already built, so he's sent me one over, basically. And hopefully I can get that working, and we'll probably be back. Let's say I get it on Wednesday. We'll probably be back the day after I get it back, because I'm going to have to set up all of it all over again, try to rescue my hard drives, all that kind of jazz. So I don't know what I'll do tomorrow. I will think of something else I can do with a notepad tomorrow. Maybe we'll play like a dumb game on my phone or something. God only knows, but we shall see. Let me know what you think. Do we do the Mega Zoo? My only concern about the Mega Zoo, and it is the only one, is that if we do two, is that A, we'll run out of room. That is a concern. And B, maybe it gets a bit laggy, because the others around definitely got laggy towards the end, so maybe the Mega Zoo would as well. But my one on the beta didn't, so I don't really know how I feel about that. I'm okay to just not ever make a Mega Zoo, and what we'll do is we'll pick 5-6 animals that have a theme. You know, I don't want the African section to be 25 animals or whatever it is, but we'd pick like the swamplands of Africa or the African savannah or something, and we'd pick 5-6 animals that fit into a smaller theme within the wider continent. And other than that, nothing's really going to link them. I'm going to use the same path type for each one. As in, Australia will have one type of path and maybe the one type of fence and stuff like that, but I'm not going to go too hard on that either. Just want to build whatever the hell I want to build, really, folks. I've got to stop talking to the microphone. Right, okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know I rambled on a bit, but I haven't spoken to you in days, and it's very upsetting for me. Very excited about my soul crocodile. I think we'd probably be kicking things off with... I don't have a bloody clue, actually. I don't know how we'd start. Probably, it'd be koala / crocodile. Maybe dingo first, depending on what the dingo looks like. We shall see. There we go, nice professional finish there. Thank you so much for joining me. God, I hope this video has worked correctly. I'm going to very quickly show you, just to prove this. There's the hammer I've been using to support my phone, which as you can see is now falling down. Thanks for joining me. Cheers myself as always. Bye-bye. How hammers talk, by the way, just in case you were curious.